Good evening. So, have you seen today's newspaper? Anything interesting you have found? On the basis of what we have discussed yesterday? Donald Trump?
Views on other countries.
Okay, Donald Trump views on other countries. And we have discussed a lot of things in yesterday's session. Fine. Are you able to connect what you have discussed or what we have analyzed yesterday? Are you able to connect with the today's newspaper?
Yes.
This is the beauty of reading newspaper. If you will read newspaper on consistent basis, many things you are going to revise automatically. This is the best thing about the newspaper. The information which is relevant and important in the nature, that is keep repeating in what? Newspaper. And that will help you to consolidate your knowledge and understanding. Okay? So it is very important to read newspaper regularly. Again, I'm going to discuss even first thing you can see that. First thing here, what they have mentioned. The first thing they have mentioned, government is still working, says Syrian Prime Minister. Israel hit suspected weapon sites. Fine. So Israel got an opportunity because there is no proper Syrian government. In fact, actually, Syria is backed by two countries, which? Iran and Russia. Fine. So when Russia have given asylum to Assad, fine, they have given the asylum to whom? Assad. Plus, without Russian consent or without Russian acceptance, it is not possible to capture Syria. Fine. So it is a kind of indirect consent to whom? Israel. You can go ahead. Why? Because till then Russia is here. Fine. It is very difficult for any force to attack in those territories which is defended by whom? Russian and Russian forces. So once Russia have decided to remove the forces, rebels have advanced, and when they advanced, they have captured the territories. Fine. In this way, there is a signal from Russia that now you have a free hand, and Israel is using that opportunity to destroy all those sites. Plus, it also have consolidated Israel's position on Golan Heights. Fine. Golan Heights, which is captured by Israel back in 1967 during the 6 Days War. Okay. So where the Golan Heights is? In fact, UPSC have asked this question regarding Golan Heights back in, I think, even before 2013. They have asked this question on what? Golan Heights. Okay, where they are located. Fine. So Golan Height related question they have asked. Dead Sea question they have asked. So on the basis of that region's geography, UPSC is asking question on consistent basis. Okay. So again, I'm emphasizing, be very focused on region's geography, how things are happening here. Fine. So in this context, they have wrote or mentioned this article, ki government is still working, but everybody know that, even the flag, you can see that. What is happening here? Government is not having any enforcement here. Rebels, they are controlling the streets. Fine. But what heading is saying that? Heading is saying that government is still working, says Syrian Prime Minister. Fine. Other thing I told you, ki they are going to have what? They are going to have a meeting, and our Foreign Secretary have a meeting with Bangladesh Prime Minister as well as Foreign Minister, Foreign Secretary. And in these meetings, India have clearly mentioned their protest of what? Minorities first, minorities and security. So two things was in focus in this meeting minorities and security. But do you know that in general, when Bangladesh and India have cordial relations, what is the prominent issue between India and Bangladesh? This is what? This is something like there is a tension between India and Bangladesh right now, government change. But imagine if everything is normal, then what issues is the main issue between India and Bangladesh? Water sharing. So water sharing is what? Water sharing is a big issue. Even generally it is said that Sheikh Hasina, head of Awami League, fine. So she was head of Awami League, and even when she was a prime minister, and it is considered as she is a pro-India. Okay, she's a pro-India means she is always inclined towards where? India. Even then, Bangladesh never hesitated to raise the issue of what? Water sharing. According to Bangladesh, certain treaties which happened in the past, they are discriminatory in the nature, and it should be what? Renegotiated. Fine. So Farakka Dam is constructed. Fine. And that Farakka Dam treaty, Bangladesh highlighting again and again that this is discriminatory in the nature. Another thing, the water sharing of Tista River. Fine. Water sharing of Tista River. In fact, back in 2018 and even before 2016. So in 2016 and 18, India and Bangladesh almost reached to the agreement of sharing of Tista River's water. But Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee have intervened, and she said that no, it is going to be discriminatory for Bengal people. Fine. And because of the protest by the Bengal, government of India stepped back. So water sharing is one of the prominent issue. Fine. Second prominent issue is illegal immigrants. Fine. So they are crossing the border on consistent basis. So illegal immigration, water sharing, these are the two prominent issues in India-Bangladesh relation. Fine. And on the cooperation level, India and Bangladesh are having cooperation on multiple levels. And recently, they have increased the cooperation even in the defense area also. Fine. And India and Bangladesh have rail and road connectivity both. Okay. So as I discussed yesterday, if India will get a transit because of the chicken's neck, India's security in the which region? Northeastern region. Because a small corridor is there. I have discussed this thing. So because of this small corridor, India is always on what? Back foot from whom? China. So if Bangladesh will provide us a corridor through which we can connect to other northeastern states from Bangladesh, so it will be helpful for India. So India and Bangladesh are also working to establish a corridor. Through corridor, we can connect our northeastern state from which? State of Bengal through railway and road. And apart from that, I also told you yesterday that Chittagong port is there, fine, and Agartala. So we can create a rail road link from Agartala to what? Chittagong. So in that way, we can provide sea connectivity to our northeastern states. Apart from that, India have created an organization known as Bay of Bengal Initiative, BIMSTEC. Fine. So in the BIMSTEC, India and Bangladesh, they are one of the most prominent member of the Bay of Bengal Initiative for further engagement. Okay, so these are the things you have to keep in your mind when you are reading the such news. So whenever you are reading news regarding Russia, okay, US, or you are reading regarding Bangladesh or any country's relation with India, then give a thought on what areas we have cooperation, fine, in what areas we have an issue, fine, and write it there on the newspaper itself. Because see, Bangladesh, Russia, US, all these countries are going to come on the regular basis. Newspaper, they are coming on the regular basis. So rather than making notes separately, you can give these basic things. What you can mention? You can mention that what? cooperation and conflict, something like that. And here you can mention what are the issues on which cooperation can be done and what are the issues. There are certain issues with that. Okay, so in this way, you can do this. Whether it is coming from Bangladesh or France or whatever country it is coming, do that thing in the newspaper. It will help you to revise and increase your knowledge. Okay, now reservation must not be based on what? Religion. Supreme Court tell whom? West Bengal. Actually, what happened recently? West Bengal added certain group of caste from Muslim in OBC. So, under the category of OBC, certain groups were added by West Bengal government, and that was challenged in Kolkata High Court. And Kolkata High Court said that it is illegal, and they have struck down that provision. They struck down that provision. So against the decision of Calcutta High Court, fine, state of West Bengal went to where? Supreme Court. And hearing is going on. Still hearing is going on. And during this hearing, judges of the Supreme Court have made an oral observation. Not a written observation, but oral observation. And that oral observation, they said that reservation must not be based on what? Religion. Actually, if you will read this article, so they said that religion should not be the only basis for what? Religion should not be only basis for reservation. And then they ask, judges ask, Acha, you have given the status of what? OBC. What is the basis? So West Bengal government said that because they are poor and they are historically marginalized. So court said that, okay, where is the data? Show the data. What process you have followed? What data is there? Show me that data. So Bengal government said that, okay, before next hearing, we will provide the data. So hearing is going on, and here this judgment is going to be very important judgment. Why? Because not only Bengal, but the other states also have given or planning to give reservation to religious minorities. Fine. So if Supreme Court is going to approve, then for them task will be easy. But if Supreme Court is going to struck down, then in other states where they have given the reservation, that will be also challenged in what? Supreme Court. Suppose that state A have given. Okay. Now Bengal is trying to give, but it is struck down by whom? Supreme Court. And Supreme Court said that it is not legal. Then state A people are also going to challenge their law in where? Supreme Court. If you have struck down this law, you have to take this law also. Fine. And if Supreme Court is going to approve, then it will be validity for those states who have given, and it will clear a path for those states who want to give reservation on the base to whom? Reservation to religious minorities. Fine. So in this context, this case is important to have an eye on it. So hearing is going to happen. Fine. Hearing is going to happen. So you will find again and again whenever the next hearing will be happen, and finally when the judgment will come. See, why newspaper reading is very good. Right now, you got this information. What information? OBC reservation. Fine. Supreme Court is going to make another observation. Again, it will come. When Supreme Court is going to say that we are going to take final decision on that date. So before the decision is going to come, newspapers are also going to write an article. Tomorrow decision is going to come on this matter. So you got again revision. Next day, judgment came. So judgment came, you found that news. Now the analysis of judgment will be again done by whom? Newspaper. With certain scholars, they are going to write their column or article. So again and again, at least 5 times you are going to find this news. And I think 5 times is more than sufficient to have this information here. Fine. So this is why, again, I'm reiterating this statement again and again. If you are reading newspaper seriously, 30-40% of the prelims and mains you can do on your own with the newspaper itself. But yes, of course, certain basic things you should know that. For example, reservation related articles, Article 13, 14, 15, 16, fine. So certain articles and Supreme Court's judgment related to it, you should know that. So basic book plus newspaper is good one. Okay. Now, Union government made Sanjay Malhotra as RBI governor. So we have new RBI governor, and his name is Mr. Sanjay Malhotra. Fine. So Mr. Sanjay Malhotra, who is at present, he is what? He is Revenue Secretary. So yesterday evening, after completing the class, when I was going to my home, just reached, one of my friend, he messaged me. Another feather in a cap from IIT Kanpur. I said, what happened? He's from IIT Kanpur. Fine. So he said that another feather in the cap from IIT Kanpur. I said, what happened? He said, you teach economics na? I said, yes. So for you, I am just informing you, you have a new RBI governor. He said, how do you know that? Means I have not seen that. He said that no, it is flashing in the news, and we have a community of IITians, and there somebody has posted that new RBI governor is from IIT Kanpur. I said, okay, thank you very much for the information. Fine. So he is from IIT Kanpur. Fine. And then he cracked the civil services. He go for post-graduation also from very prestigious university, Princeton. He did his post-graduation. He joined the civil services. And even in the civil services, he was very instrumental at the time of implementation of GST in India. So he played a very important role to connect the things. And that is why government recognized his contribution and made him what? RBI governor. Just brief introduction about the RBI. It was established in 1935. Fine. So it was established in 1935. When RBI was established on 1st April 1935, its headquarters was at Kolkata. Its headquarters was at Kolkata, but its permanent headquarters shifted to where? Mumbai in 1937. And one thing for newspaper reading point of view, when you will see news related to RBI, okay, so many times rather than mentioning RBI, okay, suppose that RBI have decided something or RBI is planning to do something. So sometimes rather than mentioning RBI, they use the term Mint Road. What road? M-I-N-T, Mint Road. So actually RBI's headquarters is at Mint Road. That road is known as what? Mint Road. Fine. So that is why sometimes rather than mentioning the term RBI, they used to mention the term what? Mint Road. Fine. So do not confuse why decisions are made on road. Fine. It doesn't mean that decisions are made on road. They mean to say that decision is taken by that building. For example, in the case of British Prime Minister. So British Prime Minister lives on 7th Road on Downing Street. So there is a Downing Street and Downing Street 7th house. Sorry, 7th house on the Downing Street. So Downing Street is there and 7th house. Sorry, 10th house. Sorry, 10th house. So 10 Downing Street. So 10th Downing Street means house number 10 on which road? Downing Street. So rather than mentioning a British Prime Minister took this decision, they will mention what? They will mention 10 Downing Street took this decision. Similarly, in the case of India, Prime Minister House, where the Prime Minister have a resident, that road was known as earlier Racecourse Road. And on that Racecourse Road, 10 houses back to back, they are for Prime Minister. But 7th house is used by the Prime Minister for the purpose of policy discussions. And that is why many times in the newspaper, it is written as 7 Racecourse Road, 7 Racecourse Road, 7 Racecourse Road. So when mentioning 7 Racecourse Road, they are mentioning whom? Indian Prime Minister. 10 Downing Street, British Prime Minister. Mint Road, India. But RBI. Mint Road means RBI. But what happened? when Mr. Narendra Modi became Prime Minister, he changed the name of the 7th Racecourse Road. Now it is Lok Niti Marg. Lok means public, Niti means policy. So public policy, he changed the name, Lok Niti Marg. So since he changed the name Lok Niti Marg, this usage of 7 Racecourse Road stopped. Because he changed the name. Earlier the name was what? Earlier the name was Racecourse Road. So they used to use what? Racecourse Road. But now what? Lok Niti Marg. Fine. So Lok Niti Marg is a road on which official resident of Indian Prime Minister is there. Fine. Now, so he is a governor of RBI. When RBI was established in 1935, Sir Osborne Smith was the first governor of RBI. Fine. And Mr. C.D. Deshmukh was the first Indian governor of RBI. Until then date, he is the youngest governor of RBI. Who? C.D. Deshmukh. Anyone have an idea of C.D. Deshmukh? No? Achha, how many have an idea of Ritesh Deshmukh? Ritesh Deshmukh. Bollywood actor Ritesh Deshmukh. Fine. Many people have an idea. So Ritesh Deshmukh is a grandson of C.D. Deshmukh. C.D. Deshmukh's son Vilasrao Deshmukh was a chief minister of Maharashtra. Fine. So Mr. C.D. Deshmukh is one of the iconic names in the Indian banking history. RBI is a bank to the government and state government. Fine. But a very interesting fact regarding RBI. Till then date, RBI have opened only one person's personal account in RBI. RBI never open individual's account. RBI only opens government account. Government of India, state government, even sometimes foreign government also have the account in RBI. No individual. Only one person. C.D. Deshmukh. So C.D. Deshmukh was the only person who was having his personal account in what? RBI. And that was a recognition for his contribution for establishment of RBI and to maintaining the autonomy of RBI. RBI was established in 1935. Okay. In 1949, RBI was nationalized. So in that duration, C.D. Deshmukh was very instrumental to make sure that the RBI can work independently. So that is why when he retired from RBI have given this recognition to his governor. Fine. Now, see, today this news came. Now the follow-up news in next few days. The follow-up news. He became a governor. So now newspapers are going to write an article. What should be the challenges for Mr. Sanjay Malhotra as a RBI governor? Fine. How he have to tackle the inflation and GDP growth rate. So they are going to discuss what challenges he is going to face. So rather than taking him as a person who is going to take a challenge, you have to consider what challenges for whom? RBI. Fine. And what are the major issues in Indian economy? Maybe you are not able to understand properly why inflation is an issue. Unless you have a proper knowledge of inflation, you will not able to understand why inflation is an issue. But at least you can understand that inflation is an issue. If it is coming in the articles again and again, at least you will understand that inflation is an issue. Why? We will do in the class. So this is why you should not give up of reading newspaper. Why? Many students complain that, sir, while reading newspaper, I am not able to understand. I said, okay, fine, if you are not able to understand. Even sometimes I am also not able to understand. So I need to take reference if some new word came. I also have to take the reference. Everyone have to take the new things when it comes. So why you are giving up? You should not give up. At least, okay, I am not able to understand what it is, but I am able to understand it is an important issue for economy, for polity, for such things. Okay, and gradually when you will do in the class, then you will also know what is inflation and why inflation. Okay. So have an eye on the upcoming articles related to Mr. Sanjay Malhotra as a governor of RBI and what challenges RBI is going to face under the new governor. Definitely, in next 2 to 3 days, you will find the article on this. Now, as it is not a Hyderabad edition, I am discussing national edition. So we are going to skip local news. If you are having Hyderabad edition, you can go through those local news which are related to your state exams. But here we are going to take all those news which are important from the UPSC exam point of view. On generally states page, allegation, counter allegation, you will find. Fine. So if you love to read about politics, you can follow. Otherwise, you can skip and reach here. After Asad's sudden ouster, India calls for what? Peaceful, inclusive, political process. What India calls for? Peaceful. There should be peaceful. And then India maintained what? Inclusive, political process. Why India is highlighting inclusive? Because this country have a one majority population and there are a lot of minorities also there. Fine. So Shia, Sunnis, Kurds and many other sects are there. So India's stance is that whatsoever solution will come, that solution must include all the sections. And it should be peaceful. No need to have what? Then battle. Otherwise, there will be instability in the region. We have already discussed this thing yesterday regarding that. Okay, so peaceful and what? Inclusive approach in what? Syria. Any country where the conflict is going on, okay, and that conflict is having one majority population, suppose that 70%, 80% one majority population, whereas rest of the population is comprised of 2-3 minorities. So if you will be asked what you will suggest, how things can be resolved, so you can have a same answer. Sir, I feel that there should be what? Peaceful way. Because if people are going to up their arms, it is going to be a bloodbath and solution cannot be found out. So first of all, peace process should be there, peaceful solution should be there. Second thing, I'll suggest that whatsoever solution we are going to find at local level or with the intervention of international community, that solution must incorporate whom? That solution must incorporate all. So approach should be what? Inclusive. So this line you can use not in the context of Syria, but any country where the problem is happening. Fine, you can use this line for other countries also. Peaceful and inclusive. Okay. Approach to EC to enact POSH Act in political parties. So certain people reached to Supreme Court and they said that the political parties in India, they have not applied Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplace Prevention, Prohibition and Readdressal Act, also known as what? POSH Act. Fine. So POSH Act is applicable on private companies, government organization. If it is applicable to private companies and government organization, why it should not be applicable to political parties? They went to where? Supreme Court. Supreme Court said that please try to understand, we are not a right person to approach. You should approach to whom? Election Commission. So recognition of the political party, de-recognition of the political party, certain directives to the political party can be given by whom? Election Commission. So if Election Commission is not going to adhere, then you can come to us. Then we will also ask whom? Election Commission, why you are not taking any action on this matter. So we are here to what? Adjudicate. We are not here the policy maker. Supreme Court, by this judgment, what they have mentioned? They have mentioned that we are not a policy maker. We are adjudicator. If certain things are not happening, then you can come to us. Please do not come to us to ask them to do this. You should ask them do this. If they are not doing and implementing, then come to us and we will ask the question to them, what are the reasons, on what basis you are not accepting it. Okay, so two things we have understood. First, election commission's role in context of what? Political parties. Second thing, judiciary do not want to involve in the matter of what? Policy making, until unless there is a issue in the policy making which is creating a lot of problem for the people. Any example in this regard? Latest example is Delhi pollution. When state government and central government is making effort and these efforts are not sufficient, then Supreme Court take those matters what? In their hand and giving the directions to do this, do that. Then it is called as what? Judicial activism. Because what is the main function of judiciary? Main function of judiciary is when matter will arise, then we will take it. But Supreme Court in certain cases become active and they on their own starts giving directions to do this, do that. Then it is called what? Judicial activism. Okay? Now, see, same related news. Supreme Court refused the plea to clear blockade by whom? Farmers on highway of Punjab. Now people reaching to the Supreme Court to ask Supreme Court to please ask the government to what? Remove the people from the road or highway. Fine. So Supreme Court again retreated that this is not our job. This is job of whom? Government. Ask the government. Then we will see that. Acha. INS Tushil. Fine. Frigate. What do you know by frigate? Do you have any idea of frigate? What is frigate? Naval ships. Fine. Naval ships above the water and below the water. So below the water, naval ships are known as submarine. Fine. And above the surface, the ships are categorized in various categories. The largest ship for Navy is known as aircraft carrier. Fine. Aircraft carrier means what? A ship which can take off and land of fighter jets. Aircraft carrier. Fine. Then after the aircraft carrier, the next category of ship is called as destroyer. Fine. So what is an objective of aircraft carrier? Objective of aircraft carrier is to provide air operations from the sea. So from the sea, you can go for what? Air operations. This is the doctrine of having aircraft carrier. Whereas the term what? Destroyer. Name is sufficient. Their purpose is what? Destruction. And they are heavy ships which are having lot of firepower, missiles and other armaments they have, and their purpose is what? Their purpose is going for offensive operations. And they are big in the size and they are also costly to build. And sometimes you do not need a destroyer, you need small ships also. So those ships who are having a firepower but generally small in the size in comparison to destroyer, they are known as what? They are known as frigate. Even they have a helicopter dock also, so they can have a helicopter also. They can go for what? They can go for offensive operation, submarine hunting. So they can go for reconnaissance, fine, for particular area. They can go for submarine hunting and they can also help operations. Fine. And over the period of time, the stealth means I am invisible from radar. So this is the new generation technology, stealth. So India and Russia have signed an agreement back in 2016 to construct ships known as frigate. And these frigates are going to be constructed at Russia. So under that, 6 ships was supposed to be constructed. Fine. So once the construction of these 6 ships completed, Government of India have given follow-on order. 3 more ships you have to construct. And under that, 1 ship, which is INS Tushil, is what? Is being constructed. our defense minister, Mr. Rajnath Singh, he reached to Kaliningrad to inaugurate this ceremony, fine, of what? Tushil. Here, one important thing is, in this article, I have highlighted few important things. Here, they have highlighted the role of Indian Navy, and they use the term IOR, Indian Ocean Rim. So, from the islands of Madagascar, from Madagascar to Australia. So, this region from Australia to Madagascar, this region is known as what? Indian Ocean Rim. And this Indian Ocean Rim, Indian Navy is very active to provide escort and provide help in the case of distress, in the case of piracy. So Indian Navy is very active, and Indian Navy have played a very important role in last 1 year in order to prevent what? Piracy. And that is why Indian Navy's role is not praised by just locals who got protection from Indian Navy, but countries like US, even UN, they praise the role of whom? Indian Navy. Fine, one thing. Another thing in this regard of this ship, INS Tushil frigate. In this context, one word is very importantly mentioned here, that this ship is also capable of embarking the upgraded anti-submarine and air operations, this one, and they also mentioned that the INS Tushil is designed for blue water operations. This ship is designed for what? Blue water operations. What is blue water? What do you mean by blue water operation? Huh? Where the water is blue, this ship can go. That is why it is what? Blue water operation. In naval context, the term is used as blue water navy. Fine. Brown water navy and blue water navy. So when we use the term blue water, fine. So generally oceans, not sea, oceans are considered as blue water. So you have a capacity to launch an operation from far distance away from your territory. Fine. So only few countries like US. So US have capability to send their operational forces, Navy, to any region of the world and execute operations. Russia is also capable of, China is also capable of, and gradually Indian Navy is also turning into what? Blue water navy. So how India can be blue water navy? Fine. For example, if India is capable of successfully send their navy and execute certain operations in South America or in Africa, fine, then we can say that the Indian Navy is also what? Blue water navy. So in this context, they have mentioned that this Tushil is designed for what? Blue water operations. So this ship is capable of what? This ship is capable of going for longer duration sea voyage. Fine. So this is why the term blue water is used. So Indian Navy is aspiring to become what? True blue water navy. So when you are called as a true blue water navy, it means what? With very ease, you can launch the operation in any part of the world. Then you are what? Blue water navy. Like US Navy, British Navy, French Navy, Russian Navy. So these navies are now Chinese Navy also. They have this capability to launch their military operation, naval operation in any part of the world with ease. India can also launch, fine. But right now, if India is sending, then India have to think, we have to think, suppose that we have 3 ships, if we are going to send all 3, who will protect our land? So have 2 and send 1. So we have to calculate this before sending. Fine. So that is why India is still not a true blue water navy. India is aspiring to become what? True blue water navy. And if you want to aspire to become a superpower, You have to have a very strong navy so that you can protect your interest in the sea. Why? Basically, to become a superpower or economic powerhouse. Suppose India want to become economic powerhouse. So in order to become an economic powerhouse, we should go for less trade and commerce or more trade and commerce.
More trade and commerce.
More trade and commerce. More trade and commerce means कि we have to limit in Asia or we have to expand our trade and commerce to where? Africa, North America, South America, we have to extend. And if you are sending your ships, which are mean for the purpose of what? Which are mean for the purpose of trade and commerce. But in between, there is a threat from other country. So are you able to do this trade and commerce? No. So that is why you need a ship which can give a protection to your interest plus can protect other countries also. Why Western Europe? Why Western European countries? Why Australia, New Zealand like country? They are relying on US. Country like New Zealand, why it is too much relied on whom? US. Because they know that their economic interest cannot be protected by themselves, but can be protected by whom? US Navy. So US Navy ships are providing escort and help to whom? This business operation. And this is why US is on top position. And this is why also China is trying to catch up with what? US Navy. Because China want to dethrone whom? US. So naval power is an important power to do that. And why I'm discussing? Because UPSC have already asked this question in the mains examination, the importance of what? Naval power to assert themselves as a what? Next superpower. Okay, understood? Now, one more news is here. National Food Security Act still driven by what? Figures from 2011 census. So we have one act, National Food Security Act. And this National Food Security Act ensures or give a guarantee of food grain to poor and very poor people. So under National Food Security Act, Government of India gives a guarantee of providing certain quantity of food grains to every poor, especially those who are below poverty line. Fine. So Mr. Prashant Bhushan, he approached to Supreme Court in the name of certain activists, and these activists are saying that, what is their point? Entire case. They are saying that at the time of COVID, fine. At the time of COVID, lot of migrations happened. Fine. And because of this migration, suppose that somebody is living in the Bihar and he came with his family for the good employment opportunity at where? Hyderabad. He started living here, and after he started living here, he also went for his ration card at where? State of Telangana. And he started getting food grains from Telangana government. But during the COVID, he found that he do not have any employment opportunity, and that is why he went back to where? His home state, where? Bihar. But in Bihar, he do not have a ration card. His ration card is of whom? Telangana. Now this person is facing a lot of difficulties to get what? Food grains, because food grains are given by the state government on the basis of what? Ration card being issued. So state of Bihar is having his inability, we are not able to give you the food grain under National Food Security Act because you do not have what? You do not have this ration card. So this is the issue highlighted by a certain activist. And these activists have requested Mr. Prashant Bhushan, who is also an activist, and he said that, okay, in the name of your good cause, I will appear in the what? Court. And he said that the government of India, who's supposed to provide National Food Security Act on the basis of aftermath of COVID, government of India is still using what? Census 2011 data. So government said that yes, we are using because census is not happening in 2021 yet because of the COVID, which we are going to start. And we accept we are providing the food grains on the basis of census 2011. But government of India also have initiated food program for migrant workers, and under that we are providing food grains to 81.35 crore eligible beneficiaries. And we have added many beneficiaries who are what? Migrant workers. So this is not right. Your allegation are not right. So Supreme Court said that okay, we are exploring this matter and we need further investigation on this issue. We will take this matter again. So again, this issue is going on what? Court. But here important lesson for you is what? You have to find the details of what? National Food Security Act, which you can easily find in the Press Information Bureau PIB's website. What are the main features of what? What are the main features of National Food Security Act? Any government scheme, any government plan, or any initiative by the government, if you want to search, best and authentic source is what? PIB, Press Information Bureau of Government of India. Just for your reference. Where is keyboard? Again, keyboard is not coming. See, now what I have typed, NFSA PIB, and first result, Press Information Bureau, National Food Security Act. So here you can see that they have provided the details of what? They provided the details of National Food Security Act related, which state is accepting what amount. Fine. Similarly, related news, government initiative to ensure nutritious food equity in India. Again, who is covering? PIB is covering this issue. So all the government's initiative which taken by the government of India, they are being published at where? PIB. And if we will go to the home page of Press Information Bureau, fine. So Press Information Bureau, if we will go to their home page, they are going to cover all the important news related to what? Related to government's initiative, ministry-wise also. Prime Minister, what decision he have taken. All these things you can take, and as government website sometimes have some issue, and it is also having an issue to load what? Index page. Anyways, you can go to the index page and you can find all the related news. But again, I will strongly recommend that whenever you want to search or want to find any important information related to certain government initiative or scheme, always try to use what? PIB, Press Information Bureau, PIB. In fact, many people say that I am providing the compilation of PIB for current affairs purpose, PIB compilation. So in last 1 month or 30 days, whatever the news came into the PIB, they compile it and they will provide the students PIB. Fine. So PIB is an important source. Another source I would like to suggest you, there is one website known as PRS Legislative. You can write it down, PRS Legislative. PRS Legislative. So when you want to track any bill, fine, any bill in the parliament or any new law enacted by the parliament, you want to get the information related to certain issues discussed in the parliament, all these things you can find at where? This website. Even for your MPs and MLA, Parliament, States, Election 2024, results, each and everything is available here. Regarding legislation, Parliament, State, discussion paper. So what are the important matters? Fine, for example, discussion paper. So discussion paper, annual review of state laws. Fine, state finances. So certain important news related to what? Polity and governance, it is available at this website. So it's a very good source for what purpose? Very good source for good reading on polity related issues. Bill related thing, you can find it on the PRS legislative if you want to read it detail. Understood? Supreme Court grant permanent commission to women army officer, and I have mentioned here, go through details of article 142. Why? In this news they have mentioned कि one lady army officer, she was not granted permanent commission by the army and she approached to whom? Supreme Court, and Supreme Court used his power. Here, see, Monday, Supreme Court on Monday exercised its extraordinary power under Article 142 of Constitution to grant permanent commission to women army officer with distinguished service record. So here, very important news is what? Article 142. So when Supreme Court feels that justice is not delivered completely, okay, Supreme Court feels that justice is not delivered completely, then Supreme Court issue a decree or order, implement this, because we are ordering and you have to implement it. Fine. So this is an extraordinary power of whom? Supreme Court, to direct and to enforce certain order given by them. So army officer, she have a distinguished service, but she was denied with what? Permanent commission, and she approached the Supreme Court, and Supreme Court used which article? Article 142. So it is your duty, you are duty bound to go for what? Article 142 detail. Read it. Okay? Without any fail, read it. Otherwise, you will feel regret when the question will come in the exam. Consider the following statement about Article 142. Fine. So, please. Opposition move a notice to remove whom? Vice President. So, Article 67B of Indian Constitution talks about what? Removal of Chairman of Rajya Sabha or Vice President. What Constitution talks about? Chairman of the Rajya Sabha or Vice President? Huh? Vice President. No, both are same. Fine. Vice President is an ex officio chairman of what? Rajya Sabha. Is he member of the Rajya Sabha? No. No. He is an ex officio chairman of what? Rajya Sabha. What is ex officio here? Ex officio means, fine, for example, another example, RBI Governor appointed, fine, and few days back, Monetary Policy Committee took a decision to have a same interest rate. And who is the chairman of Monetary Policy Committee? RBI Governor. So RBI Governor is an ex officio chairman of Monetary Policy Committee. Means what? The person who is an RBI Governor, by default, he will become what? Chairman of MPC. So similarly, the person who is a president, by default, he will become what? By default, he will become the chairman of Rajya Sabha. Fine. So Constitution talks about the chairman of Rajya Sabha's appointment as well as what? Removal. So if you want to remove Rajya Sabha's chairman, Article 67 B, I have already highlighted this in this newspaper. So Article 67B is there, and Article 67B said that first of all, you have to write a signed petition, which is have minimum how many MPs? 50 MPs. So petition should be signed by minimum 50 MPs. So once minimum 50 MPs is going to sign that petition, it will go to whom? It will go to the Rajya Sabha, and notice will be given to whom? Rajya Sabha chairman, which should be have not less than 14 days. So 14 days notice will be served. 50 MPs have signed, notice is served, and then the removal process will be initiated. And this removal process must be have the majority of total membership. So with the majority of total membership of Rajya Sabha, and it should be agreed by a Lok Sabha with simple majority, only then chairman of removed. So almost 50 MPs are ready, especially from opposition parties. They are ready, fine. They are ready to sign the petition to remove what? Vice President or Chairman of Rajya Sabha. So in that context, it is important for you to go to the article related to what? Role, power, functions of whom? Role, power, functions of Vice President of India. What is his role, power and functions of whom? Of Vice President. Yesterday I told you, no? I told you about two things. One article was on whom? One article was on the speech of Mr. Dhankar, and one article was on the speech of whom? Judge of the Allahabad High Court. Fine. Today you can see that key opposition is demanding what? His removal. Fine. Whereas the act of sitting judge of Allahabad High Court, the lawyers body of Allahabad High Court, they have requested to remove that judge. You can find this thing in the news. Lok Sabha adjourned in the blink, sense of difference in the Rajya Sabha. You can see the image of what? Agitating opposition member and who? Vice President also. Fine. Center may introduce what? Simultaneous election bill. Simultaneous election. This issue was raised by the Prime Minister, and Prime Minister feels that we have election at different time. Every time what is happening, certain part of country is a part of what? Election process. So sometimes general election, fine. Then what? Then state election. So Telangana has seen what? Parliamentary election in April, May, and before that state election in the month of November. So within a span of 4 or 5 months, state have seen what? 2 elections and multiple campaigns, money is being used. So what Prime Minister feels that this multiple elections which are happening, that is a way of misusing the money and time both. So better to go for what? Simultaneous election at the same time. Whether it is local mayor election, or it is MLA election, or it is MP election. So MP, MLA and mayor, all three should be elected at one same time. So that is why they called what? One nation, one election. So whether it is feasible or not, can we go for it? If yes, then what should be the process? For that purpose, government have appointed a commission or committee under the chairmanship of former President of India, Mr. Ramnath Kovind. So Ramnath Kovind ji have submitted his report and known as Kovind Committee Report. So Kovind Committee Report have endorsed that yes, we can go for what? Simultaneous election. So in that regard, this news is the center may introduce simultaneous election bill in this session. So many of the opposition parties, or almost all of the opposition parties, they are not in favor of what? They are not in favor of one nation, one election. So what are their views? On what basis it is good and what basis it is bad? Either you can find it, or once the bill is going to be introduced, definitely this issue will be triggered again. This year itself, Kovind Committee has submitted its report. So when report was submitted, many articles in the favor and against came. Now government is going to present that bill. Again, all those issues will what? Come. So if you are reading newspaper from January onwards, then it will be a quick revision for you. Fine, it will be quick revision for you. But if you are not reading from there, it will be good opportunity to gain a knowledge about what? One nation, one election, pros and cons. Fine.
Sir, what if the state dissolves itself in assembly? Then what is the presence of one nation, one election?
State assembly will dissolve.
Like in 2018, the government has dissolved its assembly before general elections. And 6 months before. What is the purpose of amending this one nation, one election?
See, in such case, election will happen. But the election which is going to happen, in such case, new government will form. New government will have the validity till then, one nation, one election.
That is 5.5 years.
Suppose that 2 years happened, now state assembly dissolved. So when the new government will form in the state election happened. Suppose that election happened in your state. Fine, government formed through the coalition. And in 2 years, government fall and state assembly what? Dissolve. New election will happen. But this time when the new election will happen, this time assembly is going to have a how much? 3 years only. After 3 years, when election will happen, along with what? General election.
Then idea is that the process continues.
No, understand this. This is the psychological thing, na? Ki those who are very keen and determined to drop the government, they will not go for it because they know that we are going to have only how much?
3 years.
3 years. So this is why, though, see, still it is an issue of debate whether it is right or wrong. Fine. But what is happening right now, is it right? People actually see whatever is spent in the election, who pays?
Public.
Government, election commission.
No election commission, no government, we pay. Governments run on two things. That is revenue received through taxes and money borrowed by the government. These are the two major sources of government funding. Fine. So every election have its own cost. Central forces are deployed, many government officials are being deployed. So election have its own cost. And in fact, it is a very costly process to conduct election. And expenditure is very high. If you get the data of expenditure India is spending, it's a billions of the money is being spent. And at the time of election, a lot of black money is also being moved from here and there. So such process can be monitored and can be prevented if we have one integrated way of election in the country. So obviously what government is suggesting have certain issues. I'm not denying that. But what is happening right now is also not right. So it's a matter of debate. It's a matter of debate whether India should go for one nation, one election or not. Similar debate was for the GST also. Fine. So, to certain extent, this idea is good. Why? Because it is going to decrease expenditure. But to certain extent, this idea is also very dangerous. Why? Right now, people have this thing. For this purpose, I am going to vote in the mayor's election. For this purpose, I am going to vote in the assembly election. For this purpose, we are going to vote in the national election. But in the case of one nation, one election, one cult personality can derive the entire nation's voting behavior. Fine. So the political party who are having charismatic leadership, they will always say that. They will always say that let's go for one nation, one election. But why? Because they know that their charismatic leader have a factor of attracting voters from different streams. So it will be easy for them for It will be easy for them. See what happened in the Maharashtra election and Jharkhand election. Government people, ministers, prime minister, each and everyone is campaigning. And that is like you are a minister. So you have certain responsibilities as a minister. but you have to compromise those duties and go for what? Election campaign. So, but if one nation, one election will be there, Prime Minister need not to go, because once in a 5 year he have to go for it. So certain people find this very meritorious, but certain people have their reservation that it is going to change the electoral behavior in the favor of national issue and state level issue, and local issues will be what? Overshadowed by the national issues. Fine. So people who are worried about the local amenities which are not available properly, but such issues will be overshadowed when mayor, MLA and MP election is going to be held. And this is very valid reservation. Ki why one nation, one election should not be there. So debate is going on. Let's see what is going to happen. Okay. Senior citizens free treatment scheme get 25 lakh members. So here important scheme in the news is what? Ayushman where Vandana. Fine. So Vandana card, Ayushman where Vandana card, senior citizens aged 70 and above, which is launched in October 29 by whom? Prime Minister. So actually what he did, Government of India also have initiated one scheme, Ayushman Bharat Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana. So this scheme of Government of India provide what? Treatment to the people. So in this scheme, senior citizens were not added. But on 29th of October, Prime Minister announced that we are going to add the people who are having the age of what? 70 plus. So this is why this is a very important scheme from the exam point of view. You have to write all the important details of which scheme. Ayushman Bharat Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana. Fine. So again I am telling you, it's a very important scheme from the exam point of view. It can be directly asked in the prelims exam, and you can mention this scheme while writing answer in GS paper 1, 2 and 3. Fine. So that is why it is a very important scheme, because we have Indian society and health is an issue. Governance is there, and paper 3, human development. So human development is there, and under the human development we suggest that the health facilities should be available. So there you can mention, in paper 2 governance you can mention, in paper 1 health issue, under what? Indian society you can mention. Fine. Acha. UGC finalized draft guidelines for promoting access to lifelong learning and education. Right now when you are applying for higher education, fine. So how your assessment is being done? Suppose that you want to go for certain higher education. So on the basis of your documents, only what you have on the documents, whatever the skill you have earned over the period of time while experiencing something. Fine. So that is not going to be considered. What is going to be considered? What certificate you have. Have you seen that when people will go for what? People will go for their means their interview. They will mention, I have this certificate, I have this certificate, I have this certificate, I have this certificate. And your evaluation as a skilled person happened on the basis of what? Certificate. Actually, you do know or not, it doesn't matter. Actually, you have that skill, it doesn't matter, but you have on what? Certificate. So in order to bring that logjam, and especially those people who are not having certificates but have good experience and knowledge in that, so they should not be deprived, and for that purpose UGC is drafting the guidelines. I have highlighted here, and it is known as recognition of prior learning. So recognition of prior learning is going to be added. So recognition of prior learning, earlier it was certificate based only. What certificate you have, on the basis of that certificate, your recognition will be there. But now, after this guidelines, even if you have not a certificate, but you have a knowledge, so that can be also used. And that is why UGC is taking this action very important. Okay? Acha. Now, I was telling you na, lawyers body demanded action against whom? Allahabad High Court judge for speech at VHP event. Antimatter. Idea offers scientists clue for cracking what? Cosmic mystery. Do you know what is antimatter? What is antimatter? Who is anti of matter? That is antimatter. If you are anti, then you are, and you are anti and you are matter, then you are what? Anti-matter. Basically, antimatter means what? In any atom, there is electrons, and electrons are negatively charged or positively charged? Negative charge. Fine. But imagine that an electron who have positive charge. Positron. Fine. So positron is an electron which is not negatively charged but what? Positively charged. And if this negatively charged electron and positively charged electron, positron, are going to have a what? A connection. Then they will go for what? Release of huge energy. So it is believed that this universe got birth because of Big Bang. So Big Bang happened, and because of that Big Bang, universe start expanding, and it is still what? Expanding. So because of that Big Bang, matter and antimatter both formed. And when this antimatter and matter collided, further blast happened. And because of that, galaxies and other things were formed. So it is believed that if we are able to find this antimatter, it can solve the mystery of how universe is formed. But this antimatter is rare in the nature, and it is very difficult to what? Find. So one purpose, to find the mystery of what? Universe. But apart from that, NASA especially working on antimatter. Why? Because it is known that when matter and antimatter is going to collide, when they will collide, it will release huge amount of energy. And because of collision of matter and antimatter, huge energy will be released. So we can use this for what? For our exploration of what? Universe. So क्या किया? Bottle open किया, क्या निकाला? Matter, और फिर दूसरा bottle open किया, क्या निकाला? Antimatter. Mix किया, energy release हुआ, and that energy can be used in what purpose? That energy can be used for what purpose? Going for exploration of the space. Not in this way, but just in the very casual way I'm telling you. But this is a concept. What concept? Concept is if you are able to find antimatter. So first find the antimatter. Once you will find the antimatter, try to devise what? Try to devise a way for controlled collision between whom? Matter and antimatter. And this controlled collision between matter and antimatter will release the energy which you can tap for what purpose? Which you can tap for exploration of universe. 200 years back, people have thought that of video call. No, that was just a wild imagination. Similarly, today, matter and antimatter is what? Wild imagination. So rather than laughing on this matter, we have to take it seriously. Fine. And even the person who searched this antimatter, he got the Nobel Prize, and he accidentally searched that antimatter. And even a few years back in 2012, Large Hadron Collider experiment happened near Geneva. Fine, 46-kilometer length tunnel was created, and under that they have tried to go for what? Simulating Big Bang. Simulating the Big Bang, and they have did the Big Bang, and they have created what? Antimatter. So it is believed that yes, there is an existence of what? Antimatter. And even a very small tiny particle, massless particle, like neutrinos. Einstein say that E is equal to mc square. Means if any particle is moving with the speed of what? Light, it will be converted into what? Energy. That is why E is equal to mc square. So E is equal to mc square's theory said that if any mass body which is having a mass, if it start moving with the speed of what? Light, it will be converted into what? Energy. But neutrinos are there who are almost massless and they have a speed of what? Light. And they are still in the particle form rather than in the form of what? Energy. And that neutrinos also have antimatter. So neutrino also have their antimatter. Fine. So this is why it is one of the curious thing among the scientists to solve this mystery of what? Antimatter. Fine. So this is worth to read. But obviously, I will strongly suggest you before reading such articles, go and read some basics about what? Antimatter. Once required, once you will read certain basics of antimatter, then you will enjoy this article and you can consolidate this article in your mind. So sometimes learning is little bit difficult, but it is difficult only once. When you get the basics, it is going to be easy for you for further reading on antimatter. And who knows, in next few months, there is a breakthrough on the antimatter, and that is going to be what? Important topic for the exam. So read it. Acha, one more news. One more news regarding what? UN talks in Riyadh, he focus on what? Land degradation. Recently, UN have published one report, and trust me, UN report directly will be in the exam. Every year, one or two UN report you can find in the UPSC Civil Services exam, and it comes under the part of environment and ecology. So UN reports on humans, UN report on climate or environment, they are very important of the nature. Do not miss it. So here one report came and it found that more than 3/4 of the world's land experienced drier conditions from 1970 to 2020. So there is a process of what? Deforestation, and land is getting what? Dried. And if the land is getting dried, then crops and ecosystem is under immense danger. And for that purpose, they have initiated a talks at where? Riyadh. Where is Riyadh? Saudi Arabia. Capitals? Riyadh. Fine. So in that context, and here they have mentioned one UN body, that is United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification. UNCCD. Not Cafe Coffee Day. Fine. UNCCD, United Nations Convention to what? Combat Desertification. So this is a UN body which is primarily looking on the issue and matter of what? Desertification. Fine. So keep a close eye on this update. It is a potential question for prelims exam. Okay. See, they have given complete study of what? 3 generation of matters. Fine. So they went for in too much detail. Though too much detail is not required for you, some basic information regarding antimatter, and then you can read this article sufficient. Mr. M.K. Narayan, former National Security Advisor, he have given his view how Trump and world is going to be. Fine. Though you can read this article, because in this article he is going to analyze how India's foreign policy and Trump is going to shape the world. So this article about how world is going to be under Trump and how India-US relation is going to take a dimension under the presidency of whom? Trump. Again, places and worship. I told you this thing yesterday. Ki Supreme Court have formed a bench under whom? Chief Justice. And now newspaper will start writing editorials and other things they have started. Place and worships. Fine. Amit Mitra have wrote an article, Energy Dependent World and Issue of Food security. For food security, what we have to do? For food security, what we have to do? Extensive agriculture. And extensive agriculture, and at the same time what? Energy dependency. So we need a food security. For that, we should have healthy environment. Climate change should be there or should not be there? Should not be there. Climate change should not be there. If climate change will be there, then there will be issue on what? Then there will be issue on crops. Climate change will be there, then crops are going to be what? Destroyed. So we have to prevent what? Climate change. For what purpose? Food security purpose. But development is also another issue. We have to go for what? Quest of economic development. And for the economic development purpose, we need energy. Fine. Energy in terms of what? Crude oil and fossil fuel. So fossil fuel is the cheapest way of getting energy sources. So for development purpose, we are running behind what? We are running behind fossil fuel, and usage of fossil fuel will disturb what? Climate. And climate disturbance is food security. So what should be on priority? Development or food security?
Sustainable development. Sustainable development.
Sustainable development. Middle path, sustainable development. We should develop in such a manner so that both things can be what? Achieved. So sustainable development is a solution to this problem. But generally what happens? While balancing the things, you are going to disturb both. Fine. So this should not be as a disaster. In order to balance energy dependency and food security, you have unbalanced both. So what should be done in the calibrated manner in order to achieve what? In order to achieve sustainable development. So he is trying to provide insight. Paradigm shift, Syria. Again, they have wrote on what? Syria. Indians need right to disconnect. So on mobile phone, when you have a call or you are going to make a call, there are two buttons. One is green button, other is what? Red button. Green button to connect, red button to what? Disconnect. So he is saying that the red button should be what? Larger. No. What he mean to say disconnect? He is writing in the context of employer and employee relationship. Fine. So employers these days, especially in the private organization, so there are working hours. But even after working hours, employer is consistently putting a pressure on employee. You have to complete this report. Fine, you have to complete this thing. And because of that sustained pressure, the personal life of an employee is getting disturbed. And sometimes they get too frustrated and they in their life, like what happened this year in the organization known as Ernst and Young, EY. So in EY Pune, one female employee, she committed a suicide. And that have triggered a debate. Even parliamentarians like Shashi Tharoor, he also mentioned this issue. Fine. And on that matter, he have one study, Mr. Rajesh Ranjan, he's a lawyer, and he did a very good study he did. And under that, he compared what is a condition of an employee. Do you know that there are countries like France? In France, if being as an employer, suppose that you are an employer and you called your employee, I need this report by tomorrow morning, and you called after working hour, you will be prosecuted. There is a punishment. You cannot contact your employee after working hour. It is like in India, you are saying the parents are being told by the government, you cannot beat your kids. And Indian parents are like to me, how I cannot beat my kid? Until unless I am going to beat my kid, I cannot believe that it is my kid. Only the way I consider it's my kid only when I beat him. So in India, employer and employee relationship is more toxic. Whereas, see what countries he have mentioned. He have mentioned Spain, he have mentioned France, he have mentioned Portugal. So many of the European countries have this policy of what? Right to disconnect. So I am your employee for that 8 hours. So in that 8 hours, whatever work you will give, I will do that. After the working hour, you cannot give me any work. So this is about what? Right to disconnect. And first giving all this, then he came to what? Where does India stand? Prolonged working hours. So he have did very good study. So it is a very nice article for paper 4, ethics. Fine. And it is also very good insight article for GS paper 2 also. So you can cut and have it. Entire article is very good to what? Save it. Sometimes there are the good article. Yesterday's similar article was there. You can have it. Fine. So this article have a word to cut and paste in your notes directly. India used 114 mg of antibiotic every kg in meat in 2020. Right now, these days, what? The demand of non-vegetarian food is rising. And this is not only for India, it is a global study. When income is increased in any country, the consumption of non-vegetarian food also increases. And in order to fill those demands as soon as possible, many of the poultry farms, they are using what? Antibiotics. And they are indiscriminately using what? Antibiotics. Generally, the chicken which is available at meat shop, it is grown in 14 to 18 days. So the chicken people are eating, that is grown in 14 to 18 days. If you closely see that chicken, that chicken is not able to stand on its leg. It keeps sitting because the leg of that chicken is very weak because it is not naturally grown with the help of what? Chemicals and medicine. And in that context, that antibiotics is going in what? That poultry animal, and from that poultry bird or animal, it is coming to whom? Human body. And use of excessive antibodies, antibiotics, is going to make sure that, see, human body is increasing its capacity. So similarly, viruses are also creating what? Their immunity. So if we are going to use too much antibiotic, then the virus which attacks on our body, they also develop what? Same kind of what? Resistance. So maybe certain instance will come, we are going to have what? Certain bacteria and viruses which are completely immune to what? Antibiotics. Fine. So these superbugs, they are called superbugs. Why? Because they are immune to what? Any antibiotic used. So it is very dangerous thing for what? Health purpose. And here they have given proper data on it. Sheep, highest 243 mg. Pigs, 173 mg. Cattle, chicken, 35 mg. This amount of what? This amount of antibiotics is used. Text and context. So this article is written for what? This article is written for recently Government of India have introduced a bill in the Parliament, Merchant Bill. So in India, shipbuilding industry have not grown over the period of time. So now Government of India want the shipbuilding industry and construction activity at dockyards should what? Increased. And for that purpose, they have made certain changes. Not made, they have proposed certain changes. If you will go to this article, so in this article, they have mentioned what changes is proposed by the government. And it's a very important bill. Fine, it's a very important bill because in this bill, government want to reform the shipbuilding industry in India. So it is imperative for you to go the details of this bill if you are appearing in prelims 2025. Dialogue with our fragile past, the importance of historical memory. In this event, Donald Trump came. This event happened at where? Paris, 19. So after 2019 fire, that is reconstructed and inaugurated recently. And in the inauguration of that monument, Donald Trump came and he also asked to whom? Zelensky also invited. And after this inauguration, Donald Trump have given what? A clear-cut warning to NATO as well as whom? Zelensky. Fine. So that event become more famous than this event. Donald Trump came for this event. That event is not become very famous, though it's a very historical place. 16th, 17th century old place went in the fire. It is revived and it is meticulously revived. That is not a news. Important news is what? Donald Trump came. But the Hindu, that's why sometimes the Hindu is the better newspaper than any other newspaper. They also go for other context. So in that context, this article is written. Ki how we should preserve our what? History. Okay. World needs supply chain strong enough to weather any crisis. Supply chain crisis, everybody knows that COVID has created what? Supply chain crisis. And still we are not able to come out of what? Supply chain crisis. And supply chain crisis have created an opportunity for India also. Many companies who are completely dependent on whom? China. Because they are completely dependent on China and they faced very much difficulties. And that's why the concept came what? China plus one. We should diversify our what? Supply chain. We should not put all eggs in one basket. So supply chain is still an issue. Okay, in this regard, Prime Minister is making this statement. Fine. Indirectly, he is saying that we do not just go to China, come to India and produce here also. Okay. Apart from that, in this page, there is nothing much for you. Only news in today's newspaper, like last news for today's newspaper, to Europe's current economic analysis, add leadership void. So in past, Europe was having big leaders like Angela Merkel, fine, Tony Blair, Nicolas Sarkozy. So right now, Europe do not have very strong leader who can drive the world. To certain extent, Mr. Macron, the French president, was showing some guts. But what happened? He also faced the issue at local level. So right now, Europe do not have a charismatic leadership. Fine. So because Europe do not have a charismatic leadership which can unite the Europe and go for what purpose? Go for certain policy changes in order to make their economy better. It is not happening. In that context, they have written this article. So how leadership is important and how leadership is capable of doing what? How leadership is capable of transforming country. Fine. I have completed my newspaper discussion, but before winding up the session regarding leadership, I want to let you know one example. China. When China got independence, fine. So Mao was the leader of China. And Mao led for many revolutions. Fine. Few become successful, many become failed. But then the leadership was handed to whom? Deng Xiaoping. So when the Deng Xiaoping was a president of China, he was thinking how I can transform the economy. Fine. And then he implemented the idea which is mooted in India. In 1978, when election happened, in 1977, emergency was removed and election happened. And after this election, what happened? After this election, Janata Party came to the power. And Janata Party came to the power and Janata Party said that we should utilize our coastline. We should utilize our coastline by creating what? Special economic zones. So the idea of a special economic zone was given by India. Fine. Achha. And at the same time, Singapore. Fine. Lee Kuan Yew. So Lee Kuan Yew was a leader of Singapore and he emphasized too much on what? Infrastructure development. Deng Xiaoping have studied both ideas, importance of infrastructure, using the coastal line for production purpose, especially focus on what? Export. And he implemented that policy in his country, China. And from 1978 onwards, China have went for many economic reforms, focusing on coastal line for production purpose, established a lot of special economic zone, focusing on what? Infrastructure. And that made what? Modern China. So what we see China today, that is what? That is a visionary leadership of whom? Deng Xiaoping. And that is why when Mr. Modi focuses on what? Infrastructure, many Chinese media outlets, they call him as a India's Deng Xiaoping. So India's Deng Xiaoping. So Deng Xiaoping, fine. Lee Kuan Yew, Roosevelt, fine. So these are certain iconic leaders who are known for completely transforming their country. US President, fine. US President. Once you become a US President, you can have only 2 terms. But Franklin D. Roosevelt was the president who went for what? 4 terms. After him, they have changed the constitution to give maximum how much? 2 terms. So Franklin D. Roosevelt was an iconic leader. He inspired the Americans. You have to fight. You should not be worried about whom? Japanese. You are better than them. So sometimes this leadership plays a pivotal role for transforming what? Country. And this is what is missing at where? Europe right now. In this context, this article is written. Okay? I hope you got the idea what to read in the today's newspaper. Okay? Thank you.